Diet.
What's the water, but he's gonna bring the cheese. I got you.
That's what I have to the first time. I can drink it. That's what I have to the second time. I got water. Here, you can take this. I might spill it. And welcome to the Thom Abraham Show on a Top 10 Tuesday in the Doghouse. And we're going to kick things off today here with our first show of the year from Baumhauer's Victory Grill on the South Parkway, one of my favorite places in the world. This is your college football and NFL playoff headquarters. 80 glorious TVs, and there's not a bad seat in the house. And for our Top 10 today, with the draft order in place now in the NFL, going to take a look at ESPN's first projected top 10 with the Tennessee Titans sitting right at the top. And to be honest, most projections are now down to just two quarterbacks in the first round, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And to me, neither of these guys seem like a lead pipe lock quarterback, right? I mean, it's at least a lead pipe lock star in the NFL. There's no Joe Burrow in this draft. There's no Jaden Daniels, not even a Caleb Williams in this draft, all right? And, there's no Bo Nix in this draft, who I absolutely loved as a quarterback coming out of Oregon. And so you don't have that kind of a guy. So what that means is that I think both the Titans at 1 and the Browns at 2 could possibly be, both are desperate for a quarterback, but they may be open for business in the trade market. The wild card in this whole deal is Travis Hunter, who seems like more of a sure thing than either of the top two quarterbacks. If you're the Titans or the Browns, I mean, do you take Travis Hunter and then wait to the top of the second round to get one of the other guys? Like a Jackson Dart or a Jalen Milroe or a Will Howard or a Kyle McCord or a Quinn Ewers or a Carson Beck? Because all of those guys are likely going to be on the board still at the top of the second round. At least that's the expectation right now, is that every single one of those guys could be available. And maybe one of those guys is the next Bo Nix type. If you were to tell me in 3 years that Bo Nix is the best of the lot out of the quarterbacks in this draft, this last draft, out of this rookie class, I'll tell you what, could be that way. We'll see. Now, this ESPN draft, first round, they do have 2 Alabama players in the first round, amongst 14 from the SEC. Nearly half the first round comes out of the SEC. 7 SEC teams are represented: Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M, Missouri. All have players projected to go in the first round. The Big Ten has 10 players in the first round, all of them from Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State. So we'll take a look at that. Now, we welcome those of you that are watching on WZZN TV, our YouTube channel, and on the X as well. You can check that out if you haven't yet. We welcome the listeners on 97.7 ESPN, the app, and those listening over the air in Winchester, Tennessee, and ESPN Winchester. Your lines are open. It's the same everywhere, 256-576-4977. You can also text the show at 7329-TA-SHOW, 732-982-7469. That's a great way to communicate with us. My personal X feed is at Thom Abraham Show. The Zone is on the X at 97.7 ESPN. And you can go ahead and throw a follow to at ESPN Winchester as well. And speaking of those apps, go ahead and snag not only the Zone app, get the Talk Radio WZZN app for more great programming. And then snag the ESPN Winchester app as well for their great content. Make sure that you keep an eye on the socials and on our calendar at 977ESPN.com so you know what games are on, when, and where. I mean, the Zone has all your college football playoff action, plus the NFL playoffs right through the Super Bowl. So keep an eye on that calendar. And don't forget about your big Zone deals, where you can find a link at 977ESPN.com. You can chow down on some great food. You can get some golf certificates in there, half price while supplies last. And there are more great deals being added each and every week. Coming up on the show today from the Big Ten Network, Anthony Herron will be in the house at the bottom of the hour. What do we make of this Big Ten resurgence? Is it a money thing, an NIL thing, or is it just cyclical, or is it just a bump in the road? I remember a few years ago when Colin Cowherd declared that the Big Ten was dead forever because the talent and speed was in the South, and what kid from the South wants to go up north and play in a snowbank? Well, there's a different kind of bank that they want to play in. And that's the first national of NIL. Because it seems like times have changed a bit. Or maybe, like I say, maybe it's just a blip on the radar. Maybe it's just a one-off. And by the way, not for nothing, I know it doesn't feel that way, but there really is still an SEC team eligible, for the national championship game. I mean, I know it doesn't feel that way because it's Texas, and we're like, it's Texas. But Texas is an SEC team now. And the Big Ten didn't waste any time adopting Oregon. So I'm just saying, before we throw dirt on the SEC grave, let's make sure that the SEC doesn't win the national championship. Just throwing that out there. All right. At the top of the one, Kennington, Lloyd Smith of The Athletic is in. He is a Georgia grad who covers Alabama now, but used to cover Iowa in the Big Ten. So he has a perspective on all of this as well. Plus, Ryan Grubb is officially on the street. Now, I just came out of a staff meeting and have been on the road, so I don't know if he's been hired yet in Tuscaloosa, but he ought to be. I don't care who you have to blow off that staff to get Ryan Grubb to Tuscaloosa, and this time make him stay. Saban wanted Ryan Grubb. He's a Kalen DeBoer guy. They've been together forever. Get that done, okay? Just get it done. I know they already have 10 guys on the staff that have to make room. Make room. Figure it out. Make room. Also, Alabama hoop just shellacked Oklahoma in the SEC opener. They remain number 5 in the country heading into tomorrow night's game at South Carolina. So we have that to get into as well. Playing the platters that matter, the stacks of wax, the man on the phones, keeping us on the air, making sure that I got on here from Baumhauer's. It's the one and the only. He doesn't have the new one. He's got the old one. We're reminiscing. We're jumping Joe Hunt.
Baby shark, baby shark.
Hello, I'm looking for the Mothman.
I've got plenty. How many you need? 4 horsemen. Can't hardly understand what you're saying, but...
Body, I got a little bit of a lift.
If I saw myself in clothes like those, I'd have to kick my own ass.
Tom, can you get me a dog? For old time's sake.
Who in the blue hell are you?
I'm the producer of this show. If I didn't step up, you're nowhere. I put this thing together out of spit and polish.
What is your name? It doesn't matter what's your name, man.
And this is important because let's get that through. They hit that little tank with that heroic ability.
Satisfaction is guaranteed. So passionate.
So long, Nashville, Tennessee. You can't have what's left of me.
So, Joe, I was recording all morning before I headed down here for the staff meeting, and then I just realized as I was introducing you, I just realized that I never sent you the new open. So, good job by you being ready.
No, but that song's actually fitting, especially the ending for Rand Carthon.
Yeah, good
well.
point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, Rand Carthon blown out this morning. That happened actually after I got my notes together for the show. As I was getting in the rig, that came down the pike that Rand Carthon was blown out. So we'll see what all of that means for the Titans going forward. They haven't blown a coach out. I mean, they keep Brian Callahan, but now they got to get a GM. In 2 years is all Rand Carthon lasted there, and it's starting to feel like I know that Amy Adams Strunk she's like anxious and she wants to win, and so that's one way to look at it. But the other way to look at it is there a lot of meddling going on here?
Yes.
Because that's what it feels like. It feels like there's a lot of meddling going on, and there's not going to be any consistency with this team.
Well, no, you don't give a guy like Carthon only 2 years. And again, if there's something behind the scenes like a legal, like a harassment lawsuit or something, let's put that in. That's understandable that if you get rid of somebody after 2 years. But for somebody that is as good of a scout as who he is and in finding talent as he is in the roster that he was given, that he is trying to turn over, and you get rid of him after just 2 seasons, that's not right. And there's something else that has to be going on in the front office that is a reason why he is out. As in a disagreement between him and somebody else, somebody like.
Well, he's the one that hired the coach, right?
Right. See, so it's and this was supposed to be a collaborative effort between him, Chad Brinker, and Brian Callahan. So why is it Carthon is the one that's getting chunked on this, and the other 2 are able to be coming back? Not saying that all 3 shouldn't be gone, but you can't only give him 2 seasons to try to fix a roster that was this bad because of what John Robinson did.
Well, but there are some contributors still from John Robinson's era that are doing a pretty good job for them. But you blew out Mike Vrabel, who now is one of the hot names out there. But everybody's looking around trying to hire Mike Vrabel. And I was a Mike Vrabel guy. He wanted more control than what he had. I assumed that he was involved in the whole idea of getting, Rand Carthon in there, and that they were going to, be shoulder to shoulder and sing Kumbaya. I know that Mike Vrabel and John Robinson didn't get along, so maybe I don't know what the situation was there. But who drafted the 2023 draft? That was Rand Carthon's first draft that he drafted?
Yeah,
right?
That's the Will. If that's the Will Levis one, then yes, that was Carthon. Yes.
So he took Skoronski first, Peter Skoronski first. All right. He took Will Levis, Tajay Spears, which has been pretty good for them, Josh Wiley, Jalen Duncan, and Colton Dowell. All right. Not getting anything out of any of those guys. Last year, who did he draft last year? He drafted J.C. Latham, who I think is going to be a solid long-term player for them. Devondre Sweat, he had a pretty good season, didn't he?
Oh no, he's
solid.
He and Big Jeff are a tandem at the defensive
he's
line.
solid.
That's solidified, yes.
Cedric Gray, I don't know how much they got out of him.
He was injured a lot this year. He spent a lot of time on IR.
Jarvis Brownlee.
He had a tremendous season in the
very good season there. Jaquan Jackson. I didn't even want to see it. Okay, now he's got a special. Frank's got a special T-shirt made up that says "Roll the Tide," and on the back it says "Twice in 2024."
And that doesn't describe my sex life.
That's it. It is. It is your sex life. I think twice in 2024. That's a whole other story. Anyway, Jaquan Jackson, James Williams, and Jalen Herron. It's not a terrible draft. I mean, it's the guys at the top.
In the 2023 draft, it wasn't a terrible draft either.
No.
It's just it's all circled around Will Levis. And Skoronski has started, I want to say, every single game this year. J.C. Latham has started every single game this year. So you've got the left side of the offensive line set up. And if you look back at the 2023 draft, the guys that were at the bottom of it has also contributed on this team throughout there. So you found role players late in this. And then you also have to remember what he did in free agency last year. And I promise you, if you look at the opening day starting 22 for the Titans against when they played the Bears, and you look at the players that were on the field for the Texans game, it is almost 2 totally different starters because of how many players have been put on the IR, been shut down, and that's part of the biggest issue is you need guys that are going to be there for 17 games.
Now, I am not 100% down on Will Levis. I'll be honest with you. I am not. I don't think that the kid's career is completely over. He's a complete dud, and that's it. That's not to say that they won't draft a quarterback number 1 overall or trade out of that pick. Honestly, I don't think they'll trade out of that pick. But let's just take a look at what he passed on when he drafted Will Levis. Do you know who was drafted right after Will Levis? The next pick?
I want to say it. Was that the wide receiver for the Rams?
No, Sam Laporta. Tight end for The Lions tight end, he pretty good. he pretty good.
But see, at the same time, though, like a lot of this comes for need. Like when the Titans made that draft pick in Laporta, Titans didn't need to draft a tight end. Like, you know, I've seen a lot of people today that's like, this is the same guy that passed on Brock Bowers when Brock Bowers was available at 11, and we're like, they didn't need Brock Bowers.
Yeah, everybody needs Brock Bowers.
No,
you don't. I mean, a freak tight end is.
It doesn't matter though if your quarterback takes a breath and gets hit.
Well, that's true.
You know, that's the biggest thing, and that's the issue with Will Levis, because I'm not out on Levis. I think that Levis needs to calm down, and I know he needs to be a game manager right now, because right now he's trying to be an award winner where he needs to be a game manager, but he also needs the ability to have more than a millisecond to think, and the right side of the offensive line for the Titans is god-awful.
Well, I think what Will Levis needed to do was stay in college for another year. I really thought that he needed another season of college. Because remember, he was really good in his second year. In his third year there, he was not as good. And so there were some issues there. I'm now in the third round, by the way, looking for quarterback. The next quarterback taken after Will Levis, so there were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. So when you drafted Will Levis at the top of the second round, you're getting the 7th quarterback already. That's you're using the top of the second round to pick the 7th best guy at his position. So that's a little bit dicey. The next quarterback after Will Levis that was picked wasn't until the third round. The fifth pick in the third round was Hendon Hooker. All right, so there were no quarterbacks left. No. Let's just say there were no quarterbacks left for them to pick. They got the last of the decent quarterbacks, and he was number 7. You know, so maybe if there was an opportunity for them to move up and to get a quarterback, if that would have been an opportunity, but I don't think that opportunity was there necessarily.
No, and that's the reason why they did. Again, in that day, there was a point in time during that draft day that Will Levis was even being talked about as being the first overall pick. Like, Vegas was starting to move on his numbers because people were betting on him
after his year before. Yeah, you're talking about after his.
Well, no, like in the day he was getting drafted. There was a lot of talk that Levis was going to be the first player taken in the 2023 draft, and that even Vegas was starting to see his number change because of how many people were starting to bet on him getting picked number 1 overall.
No, not by the time the draft came.
Yes.
He was not considered the number 1 guy.
100%.
There's no way.
Yeah, absolutely he was.
I disagree.
I know you can disagree with it, but I'm literally sitting with the Titans, and they're saying to me, why is Will Levis being considered the number 1 quarterback right now?
And then he gets taken 7th?
Yes.
Now, see, going into the 2023 college season, or the 2022 college season, he was thought to be the guy that could be the number 1 quarterback pick before the season. But at the end of his final year at Kentucky, no one was thinking that Will Levis was going to be the top guy.
I'm telling you, on the day of the draft, the talk is that something had changed inside of these war rooms, and that people were looking at Will Levis differently than what it was. So when that talk happened, that's the reason he is in the green room. That's why everybody's thinking he's getting picked in the first round and early in the first round. And then he started to fall, and we're going, all right, why is that? So when he gets drafted by the Titans on the second day, Titans fans and Titans are looking at this going, well, heck, this was a guy that was, by the time we started the draft, was being looked at as a top 5 pick, and we just got him in the second round. So, yeah, no, it was very strange. Nobody understood it, but something was being talked about, and he was moving up draft boards. That's what we kept hearing about.
Somebody would dream that Will Levis was moving up that high. There was no way that Will Levis was considered anywhere near Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. There's no way. There's no way. I mean, going in, Pro Football Focus had him as the number 3 quarterback going in. Anthony Richardson is the number 4 quarterback. But they had Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Every draft board on the planet had Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, or C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young as 1-2. I just, I'm looking at NFL.com. Let's see. This is April 21 of 2023. Pro execs, scouts, and coaches rank and evaluate the QB class. And projected first round, Bryce Young, and then Stroud, and then 3 is where you do Anthony Richardson. This is and then Will Levis 4. So Will Levis was definitely considered a first-round guy that fell to the second round. I'll agree with that. He was a first-round guy that fell to the second round. I still like him. I'll be honest with you. I still think he's. I would not just throw him away yet.
No,
I wouldn't go there yet. I still
think
like him.
I would much rather have a quarterback like him than have one like Marcus Mariota.
You're right. I think you're right about one thing. Something, you need to work your context. I'm going to work my context. Something's going on for Rand Carthen to get run. Rand to get run, and after year 2, something else happened. And I'm not saying something. I don't want to put that aspersion on a guy, that he did something illegal or was harassment.
Right.
Something else. I mean, something happened where there was a big disagreement in the direction of the team, and this dude.
I mean, think about this, and you and I, you sat here and you said the same thing that I've said on the Blitz, as well as, to me, there's nobody that is worth that the Titans need at number 1. Like, there's just like, you're looking at it, you're going, all right, maybe Cam Ward. I don't know about the Shadir Center. Like, you're sitting here questioning it, but there are teams behind you that are salivating to get up to that 1 pick because they want to take that chance.
Yeah.
Let them. So I wonder, and this is just speculation.
I would just take Travis Hunter. I'd keep the one to take Travis Hunter because that kid's going to play for 10 years.
But
that kid's going to be a thing. Those 2 quarterbacks are a reach.
Well, but at the same time, are you drafting him as a wide receiver? Are you drafting him as a cornerback? Like, you don't take a wide receiver or a cornerback number 1 overall unless it's Randy Moss.
Well, if he's both, you do though. If he's a guy that can do both, you do. And look, they need a lockdown corner. And they need a guy that can spot receive. I think he's a guy that takes 15, 20 snaps a game at wide receiver. I mean, don't tell me that wide receiver room is so great that they don't need a guy that can do that. Now, the only other option would be is if they take the top offensive lineman in the draft, but they don't have to be at 1 to do that. They can do that at 5.
They can do that. They can drop. Like I said earlier, like, you literally put out a king's ransom to the Giants because the Giants' decision to go away from Saquon Barkley to keep Daniel Jones was so public. You put out a king's ransom and say, fine, I want your number 1s this year. I want your number 1 next year. I want your number 2s. I want all of that, and I want a player. And
you go back.
Yeah, and you give me all of that, and then you guys can move up to 1, and then I can draft Will Campbell at 3.
You go back after the 2023 draft, and everybody was ripping the Detroit Lions. They got all Fs. They were ripping them. Why did they draft Jahmyr Gibbs? They just got the Montgomery kid. Why did they draft it? You know what they did? They just drafted the best players that were on the board, and they put them on their football team, and now look at them. Now they're 15-2. So there is something to be said, though, for just drafting great players.
It makes me wonder if Carthon and upper management had a conversation and he wants to trade back, and they're like, no, we need a quarterback.
Yeah, something happened.
Like, it sounds like something like that, where you're like, his vision and their vision seem to be totally different, but I trust his vision.
It could be even bigger than that. I mean, and more than just one thing. Hey, you want to do this and we want to do that. It could be. I mean, it could have been button heads over a number of things. Who knows? And anyway, we'll see who they can get to be a GM there. But I don't have a lot of confidence in Amy Adams-Strunk that she's going to bring in somebody, or that somebody. I think the more and more you see other, potential candidates for a job like that, they look at the owner and say, do I want to go work there? Do I want to go work for somebody that's that impatient? Do I want to go work for somebody that maybe is not that on the ball? I know my friend Jeff Diamond, after he was done with the Titans as the president of Titans, his name came up with a number of jobs with teams in the front office, either as president or a GM. In certain teams, he declined the interview just because he told me flat out, he said, Tom, there are owners I don't want to work for. I won't work. He said, I won't work for him. I won't work for the guy in LA. He flat out said, I'm not working for the Blake. I'm not going to go work for that. I'm going to pick my owner that I'm going to work for. And I wonder, is Amy Adams-Strunk got that kind of cachet around the league where GM types are going to say, yeah, I want to go work for her?
Well, and it makes me wonder if she has, like, the wrong person in her ear telling her things that she's trusting, or is everybody in that front office starting to get a little antsy because they have a brand new billion-dollar stadium that's being built and they don't want a 6-6 team going into it, and they're panicking?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, let's get a break in here, and when we come back, Anthony Herron will join us, and we'll talk some Big Ten with him because the Big Ten is all the rage right now. Big Ant is next. Thom Abraham Show, live from Baumhauer's, continues in a moment. Just find a spot to make up that break.
It's laundry season at Owen Home Appliance Center. Tired of that washer walking out the door and having to dry a load 2 or 3 times? It's time for a new washer and dryer. Pick from brands like Maytag, GE, Whirlpool, Electrolux, and of course, Speed Queen. Try the new 2-in-1 GE Profile that washes and dries a load all in one machine. Visit the interactive location in Lacey Springs where you can try your washers and dryers before you buy them. Owen Home Appliance Center. Quality products, quality pricing, quality service. It's in the name, Owen Home Appliance Center.
Hi, this is Wes Neighbors. I'm here with Sam Fleming with Fleming.
Tennessee Titans determined to stay an unserious franchise.
And restoration.
Hey Wes, our company Fleming Roofing and Restoration specializes in commercial and residential roofing and repairs. We're a fifth generation Huntsvillian, and our family's been doing construction business in Huntsville area since 1964.
Sam, what kind of roofs does Fleming Roofing and Restoration do?
Our guys are skilled enough. We can come out and address any kind of leaks or issues you might have on your commercial.
She needs to be.
Metal roofing.
She needs to be
shingles,
100%
we can offer you a
absentee.
You guys also do insurance restoration.
Our staff has 10+ years of experience as insurance adjusters. We really do know the inside and out.
Nobody wants to work.
Check out Fleming Roofing and Restoration online at FlemingHSV.com, or you can call or text them at 256-651-9440.
Hey Wes, we show up.
Hey folks, this is Arthur Seaton, managing partner at University Kia, proudly saying Roll Tide and War Eagle. Stop into University Kia today and shop one of the area's largest selection of new Kias, including Fortes, Seltos, Telluride, and Popular Carnival, and fully electric EV6. View all the great specials at universitykia.com and get pre-approved in minutes so you can drive home your new Kia if you really want, because we want to see you in a University Kia.
By now, you know about Eagle Masonry and Insulation, and maybe you know that Eagle also does landscaping and dirt work. But how about after paint work? Shower doors, shelving, and mirrors, all taken care of by Eagle, the same Eagle that takes care of all your masonry, insulation, and landscaping needs. Eagle brings the same level of expertise to all these disciplines, and they're ready to provide you with a free quote. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
Yeah, welcome back. Thom Abraham Show, live on location, Baumhauer's, South Memorial Parkway, 80 TVs. This is your home for college football playoff action, NFL playoff action, and the Thom Abraham Show every other Tuesday. Back in the day when Anthony Herron was with the Tennessee Valley Vipers. Yeah, that's right. He was with the Vipers. I wonder if he ever made his way to a Baumhauer's. You know, not this brand new one, not this beautiful one. I say brand new. It's been 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years. But I wonder if he used to go to Baumhauer's at all over on Airport Road and all. He joins us from his home in Chicago. He's with the Big Ten Network. He does stuff for the Chicago Bears as well, and he is on the Neighbors Wealth Management hotline. Big Ant, welcome in. How are you?
Big diggity. I do believe back in the day, I have dined at a Baumhauer's at some point, sometime, many moons ago. I couldn't tell you exactly when, certainly couldn't tell you what I had, but I'm pretty sure I made my way to a Baumhauer's at some point. How they treat you today?
Oh, they always treat me good. I've done more shows at a Baumhauer's than anywhere else in my career. They're all over the state of Alabama. I think they used to feed the Vipers back in the day. I think there was a period of time they used to actually feed the Vipers. So, yeah, you would have knocked down a wing or two probably from Baumhauer's at one particular point in time. But how you been, my friend? Pretty exciting stuff, especially in the Big Ten. What a season for the Big Ten.
Yeah, it is definitely an exciting time in the conference, an opportunity, potential here for maybe the entire national championship game to be represented. You could have 2 Big Ten teams doing battle for the college football playoff national title, so that could be a nice little threshold for the conference to get over. We've seen the SEC do that a few times here, and obviously the Southeastern Conference has earned, a certain benefit of the doubt over the last, 15 plus seasons, but we saw plenty plenty of signs throughout the regular season that, you know, the overall strength of the top end of the conference just wasn't quite to the same standard, not the same consistency. And that's the thing to me that kind of got lost in the, you know, the 12 best getting in or the 12 most deserving getting into the college football playoff. In the end, I feel like those should be the same thing. The teams who earn their way in, the teams who are the most deserving because of the season they put together and how consistently they were able to play at a high level, then those should be viewed as the best team, not just the team with the most talent or with the highest ceiling. And I think we're actually seeing that, you know, kind of play out in the postseason here. The teams who've kind of been at their best most consistently throughout the year are the ones who've been able to advance.
Well, yeah, and, you know, it's really interesting. By the way, I've been telling people there's 3 Big Ten teams and an SEC team left in the playoff, and they're like, oh, but Notre Dame's not in the Big Ten. I'm like, I know. Notre Dame feels like a Big Ten team, you know. But there was a time, I mean, it was about 4 or 5 years ago when Colin Howard famously said that the Big Ten was dead because the speed and the athleticism is in the South, and what kid from the South wants to go up north to play in a snowbank? Well, I think it's a different kind of bank that might have changed that. I mean, you know, I wonder if this, you know, here we are just a couple of years removed since NIL became a thing. Money's being thrown around. We know these Big Ten schools, some of them have huge benefactors. And whether or not that has leveled the playing field. What's your thought on whether or not NIL is behind the resurgence in the Big Ten, at least at the top, because it's still a very top-heavy conference?
I think it's twofold. It's a great question because kind of where we're at in the sport right now, and hand up, I was the guy who wasn't really excited about playoff expansion because, you know, the playoff was expanding more so about our ravenous appetite for more football, more so than trying to claim, crown one true champion in the end of things. And because we just want more football and people can't get enough of it, they said, all right, let's expand this playoff field. Yeah, keep your conference championship games, keep the 12-game regular season, and let's just add more postseason to it. And folks have been gobbling it up. But what I do think has been, honestly, that's come at a really good time. Playoff expansion comes in the midst of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. So not only do you have players with the opportunity to earn additional revenue from their personal brand, but then you do have freedom for players to transition from one team to the next, looking for, what they might think, what they will hope is a better opportunity than the one they have. And in those 4 or 5 years of eligibility, and who knows, this whole JUCO thing, I guess it expands beyond that now.
Right.
But in the years of eligibility you have access to in college football, go ahead and maximize it. But now it has seemingly flattened out the rosters. With the rosters now, you don't have things where, I saw the joke on social media. Now that the rest of the country is paying players, suddenly the SEC is come back to the pack a little bit. I saw those jokes being raised out there. Who knows how much of that part is true? But the compensation for players, with the teams at the top of the totem pole, like Texas, we know they've got deep pockets. Oregon's got deep pockets. Ohio State's got deep pockets. But a team like Ole Miss, that really invested in their squad. Tennessee very much invested in their squad this season as well. So it still doesn't guarantee you anything. And even Notre Dame, Notre Dame isn't a team that's going to have this NIL-rich roster here. But one of the things you have seen massaged a little bit, they were able to take a few transfers in an enhanced way over what Notre Dame would have been able to in the past. And that certainly made a difference in the depth of the Irish roster this season. So it's not only the NIL, but also the transfer portal. We're seeing more even distribution of talent, and most specifically at the quarterback position.
Well, with Notre Dame, one of the things there is, you want to talk about an unfair advantage. I know that they don't get to have a bye ever in the playoffs, and we saw how the byes worked out. That was a great plan. But Notre Dame, they've made $14 million all for themselves so far in the playoff. Whereas, Ohio State and Penn State, they're splitting money. Those teams are getting, basically they've earned $14 million each for the conference, but then they all just, in the Big Ten, they whack it up evenly. So, that's a heck of an advantage. I think that I saw that Ohio State and Penn State right now have netted like $4.5 or $5 million for their own program, where Notre Dame has made $14 million already, and we'll keep it all. Why would you ever go in a conference with Notre Dame?
Yeah, when you can do that and stay independent and still bring in the kind of revenue that they do, then it certainly feels like something that has always had the potential to be an advantage for the Irish, while yet still, like when you were a kid and, in certain portions of my lifetime here in the 80s when Notre Dame was consistently at the top of the heap in the sport.
Yeah.
You've seen Notre Dame make the college football playoff a couple of times under Brian Kelly, but it's never really, at least in my opinion, hasn't felt like Notre Dame has a roster and frankly just has execution that can compete to truly win a national championship until what we've seen in the playoff here. And even the way this team executes still has some limitations to it on offense, with Riley Leonard being more of a running threat than he is a passing threat. But they've won a national title since 1988. So, that NBC deal has been in place for decades now, where they've been able to keep their own coffers full with their money and their not sharing revenue with the conference in football. But it hasn't guaranteed a thing from a national championship perspective. So, Marcus Freeman is in the midst of doing something that even his predecessor, Brian Kelly, wasn't able to do, winning multiple college football playoff games. And he and James Franklin now with an opportunity. They're kind of on the precipice of some history here, where one of them can become the first black coach to lead a team to a major college national championship game appearance. So, there's a lot from a financial perspective, an opportunity perspective, that the different conferences, the different teams, who's massaging the academic restrictions that might have been there, who is putting more infrastructure into NIL opportunities that are there, and just from a perception perspective, how much of it, is just kind of, ginned up based off of the idea that the Southeastern Conference and or the Big Ten has just been this behemoth, and those teams get boosted towards the top of the rankings based off of it. There are so many levels to how this discussion plays out.
Yeah, Anthony Herron with us here for the Big Ten Network. And, there was one thing for certain. When it got to the Final Four, I felt like it would be the Big Ten and the SEC. And that's pretty much the way it's worked out. Again, Notre Dame is kind of a unicorn in this whole thing, being an independent.
As a member of the SEC.
Yeah, we're not chanting. We're not chanting real loud the SEC. We're just kind of like mumbling it. You know what I mean? Just, SEC, kind of SEC. The Big Ten fans are acting like, Texas is still in, or the Big 12. The Big 12 fans are acting like they're still in the Big 12. They're like very proud of Texas being in the Final Four. There's no doubt about that. To the Notre Dame Penn State game, and I'm a James Franklin guy. We got to be pretty good friends when he was at Vandy, and he let me come and do shows there and during practice and everything else, and it was really good. Having said that, he's finally kind of starting to shake that stigma of not being able to win the big game, but a lot of people are looking at it and saying, SMU and Boise State. So now they get, a real name brand in Notre Dame. Can they win this game against Notre Dame? This one's going to be a more competitive game. I feel like the other game is the national championship game. This game feels like it's going to be a more competitive game. Your thought?
I really like what Penn State's been able to do so far in the playoff here. And the matchup, there's a few similarities, frankly, to the way these teams execute and kind of what they end up valuing on offense and on defense. Because for James Franklin and Penn State, they're not great at the wide receiver position. And Notre Dame has been exceptional on the back end. Their secondary plays more man coverage than anyone else in the country from a percentage perspective. And so if they're going to be able to glove up the Penn State wide receivers in the same fashion they were able to glove up the opposing wide receivers through their first two college football playoff matchups, then it's going to be about that Penn State ground attack. Can they get Kaytron Allen going? Can they get Nicholas Singleton going? And one thing that Penn State's done, where Tyler Warren, their main tight end, the best tight end in the country, most folks will tell you, he's a versatile weapon, kind of a Swiss Army knife. They don't just line him up in line. They'll split him out. They'll attach him in the slot. They'll put him in the wildcat, back there behind center. They'll use him in a wide variety of ways. But they've gone to more multi-tight end personnel grouping. That's been a big thing that's enhanced their run game during the playoff here. And so even without the QB run game, because they had the guy Bo Pribula, who's the number 2 QB, he transfers out. Even though he had been a big part of their offensive attack, where they would rotate him in and utilize the QB run game and some of the different looks they could use with his multi-dimensional skills. So now it's going to be tasked with Drew Aller. And frankly, the numbers don't indicate that Drew Aller's actually thrown the football pretty well during the playoff here, but they don't have great playmakers on the outside. And as the man coverage has been tight, there have been some drops from Penn State wide receivers. And so that's going to be, to me, the biggest challenge. If Penn State can't run the ball with dominance, then they're going to really have to not only allow Drew Allen to throw it, but his pass catchers are going to have to come up with some grabs against a really talented Notre Dame secondary. I do feel like the challenge for Notre Dame is a tougher one because while Drew Allen is a talented passer, and the numbers don't always indicate it, Riley Leonard just doesn't really throw the football that well. But they've been able to dominate with the ground attack despite that. So with Jeremiah Love being banged up, Darian Price is really talented, and Riley Leonard is a very gifted runner in his own right. But this is a game that's going to have to be played at Notre Dame's tempo. You know, if they punt the ball, it's got to be after they've gained a couple of first downs. They can't give Penn State advantageous field position here. And they got to protect it. Penn State's taking the football away at a really high clip through their first couple of playoff games. Notre Dame's got to protect the rock. They got to punt and pin the Penn State offense and see if they can get some advantageous field positions. But I think they're going to have a harder time just pushing around that front from Penn State, not because they got gargantuan guys in that Penn State front seven. It's just hard to get a hand on them. They move so well. It's a big stunting front seven for the Nittany Lions, so it's really hard to get a glove on them. Even if you get a good gain on first down, they're waiting for a tackle for loss on second down with a guy like Abdul Carter being on the move so much.
Yeah, you wonder if either of those two quarterbacks would throw for 100 yards in a game. I mean, Notre Dame,
right.
And they won a game with 90 yards passing. I mean, like this is it's like 1978 all over again, and you know, with Notre Dame and Penn State. The other one, of course, you got Texas with that long and storied SEC history, carrying the banner for the league, taking on Ohio State. And Ohio State, can I trust them yet? I mean, what if the Ohio State that played Michigan shows up? I mean, how does that team go from playing Michigan and looking like they couldn't get out of their own way? And certainly Michigan also manhandled Alabama. But how is it that I see that Ohio State team, and then I turn around and see an Ohio State team that just absolutely throttled Tennessee and Oregon?
That's one of the wildest things about that Michigan game, where Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, his offensive coordinator, these are guys that have proven themselves as a couple of the top offensive minds in the sport for years now. And they go into that Michigan game, and they just continue to hammer their head against the wall into the teeth of that Michigan defense with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant on the interior. I mean, you're not going to find a better tandem of defensive tackles in college football.
Right.
And that's the main strength of the entire Wolverines lineup. And they just said, we're going to try to out-muscle Wolverines. The Maize and Blue can't show. And that's why the game was played the way it was. It was just a horrible game plan. But in the playoffs, they had a few weeks, and they just sat there licking their wounds and getting ticked off. And I don't know how big of a Tombstone fan you are, but to me, it's kind of like there's a line in the movie where they're asking, some of the guys are asking Doc Holliday, played by Val Kilmer, about, this revenge tour that Wyatt Earp is going on. And Val Kilmer turns to the guy and he says, it's not revenge she's after, it's a reckoning. And that's basically what we're seeing from Ohio State.
Yeah.
They're after a reckoning right now. They're on each side of the ball in every phase of the game. They are out for blood. And they have played with this sort of gaze, this glare in their eyes, where they know how great they can be. And we're finally, a couple of games in a row, seeing the ceiling that the Buckeyes have the potential to achieve. I don't see anyone able to take down Ohio State if they're playing at that level, but it will essentially be a home game for Texas. I do think Quinn Ewers gets undervalued for his talent as a passer. He doesn't have the degree of playmakers to throw the ball to that Will Howard from Ohio State does. But that 4th and 13, man, that was some legendary stuff right there against Arizona State when their back was against the wall. So I like the challenge that Texas presents, but I'm not picking anybody against Ohio State.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And Michigan fan is like, go ahead, Ohio State, go ahead and win the natty. We still beat you. You know what I mean? They're like, that's a hollow natty. You can have the natty. We beat you. You know what I mean? So that's where they're living. Anthony Herron with us here. All right, before I let you go, we do have Chicago Bear fans down here. Because we got a lot of folks that come down from the upper Midwest and so on. And the Bears job is open right now. They asked for permission to talk. To Mike McCarthy. I think people read a little bit too much into that because that's a long list of coaches that they certainly want to talk to and so on. Ryan Poles, I'm very fond of Ryan. I grew up with his dad. He and I were roommates. His dad and I were roommates, and Ryan used to play in the dummies, blocking dummies with my kids and stuff like that back in the day when we were all coaching still. So I want to see the kids succeed. There's no doubt about it. This is a huge, huge hire here It's got to be an offensive guy, though, doesn't it? I mean, doesn't he got to get a quarterback whisperer in there? He's got to get an offensive guy in there. They've had enough with these defensive coaches. What do you think?
The Bears just tend to sort of bounce back and forth. You know, they brought in John Fox for a little while, and John Fox didn't work out after Mark Trestman. So he went from Mark Trestman, NFL offensive wizard, to John Fox. And John Fox didn't do so well as kind of your old, rough defensive guy. And you go from John Fox to Matt Nagy. And you go from Matt Nagy to now Matt Eberflus. And it does seem likely that they'll probably go back to an offensive guy. But, what we've seen of recent vintage here, Matt Nagy had never been a head coach before. He'd never even called a play before. He came into Chicago, didn't know how to run a football team. And, the OCs, the offensive coordinators that Eberflus has hired, Shane Waldron was ineffective. Luke Getsy was ineffective. So I do think, at least from a Bears fan perspective, the city of Chicago is a bit soured on the idea of, having the offensive wizard come in and just not know how to develop a quarterback. So I think Ben Johnson has been remarkably impressive as the Lions offensive coordinator. So maybe you end up in a Kevin O'Connell circumstance or a Matt LaFleur circumstance where you've seen examples. There's certainly guys, first-time head coach, offensive coordinator who comes in and knows how to run a team. But Ben Johnson's got to ace the interview, in my opinion. I don't think it has to be an offensive guy when a Mike Vrabel type has won at a high level before and can be this CEO style of head coach. Pete Carroll, I can be a bit of an ageist with this kind of thing. He's getting into his mid-70s. I don't know that I would necessarily love that. But even Pete Carroll has won at a high level with multiple quarterbacks, and he's a defensive coach. So I do think the Bears should keep an open mind about getting the guy who just seems to be someone who can come in and right the ship for this organization, whichever side of the football they've coached before. But in the end, I think that the most T's get crossed and I's get dotted if it is an offensive coach. But I do hope that if they interview Mike Vrabel and he wows him, then at least there's a proven resume of winning as a head coach. Where Cliff Kingsbury, that's a good guy. He's been head coach both in college and the NFL. He hasn't had any success as a head coach now as an offensive coordinator.
Great coordinator, yeah. That's what I worry about with Johnson a little bit. I don't know, but I want a leader of men. I think you got to hire the best leader of men, because we're starting to see that, and let them hire outstanding coordinators, because coordinators are like mad scientists. They're the guys that are deep into the book, and they get the X's and O's and everything else, but they're not always the greatest leaders. You know what I mean? In terms of, and we're seeing this more and more. I mean, it started kind of with Mike Tomlin. People are talking about the fact that Dan Campbell was never a coordinator. Like, Dan Campbell never called a play in his life. And look at what he's done now with the Detroit Lions. Well, you know what? Long before Dan Campbell was hired, Mike Tomlin was hired, and he was a position coach. And he never called a play in his life either, and still doesn't. And is a guy that is just a leader. We've seen it most recently with Deion Sanders. I mean, come on. I mean, Deion, he's not up there Xing and Oing. I don't know if Deion's ever grabbed a whiteboard and a chalk in his life, but he's got guys playing for him, you know what I mean? And a leader of men. So that's the thing I'm looking at, is that it might be a position coach. It might be some guy that is out there that, find me the next guy like that, the next Dan Campbell type, and let him worry about hiring great coordinators. Because sometimes coordinators, and you know this, you and I have been around long enough now, sometimes coordinators are just coordinators. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're just coordinators. And I'm not saying that Ben Johnson wouldn't be a great head coach, who knows. But, some of those guys, they're just better off as coordinators and not necessarily a guy that can stand in front of a room of alpha males and get them to play over their skis the way Dan Campbell has, the way Mike Tomlin has over the years.
I mean, you think about even with the Houston Texans, where DeMeco Ryans, he's been a defensive coordinator for a couple of years in San Francisco, but he comes in as a defensive guy, and so they get a coach who obviously is an excellent leader, and they draft the right quarterback. You get the young, talented C.J. Stroud in there, and that's been a great pairing. Now the Texans, back-to-back years, the first 2 years that either of them has been in this position. DeMeco Ryans never head coach at any level before. He's made the playoffs 2 times. And, C.J. Stroud took a bit of a step back in his sophomore season. That's to be expected, man. He had a historic rookie year. I don't think that means football's going to be easy for C.J. Stroud throughout his entire football life, but he's been able to do enough to lead his squad to the playoffs yet again. So there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat and pair these things up with your head coach And the Bears they do have their young, talented QB, but you got to get someone in who's going to have a structure in place that nurtures the talents of Caleb Williams and can help him develop to get the most out of him. As much as anything, you go back to last offseason, Bears probably missed the boat and not putting everything into trying to get Jim Harbaugh in. They decided to give Matt Eberflus a year. Yeah, it proved to be a big mistake, but the carousel always churns out more coaching talent. Now, I'll say this. I know you got, Titans fans who listen closely and all these other things from different regions. Thomas Brown, the guy who was the interim head coach for the Bears in the week since they got rid of Matt Eberflus, I don't think he's ready to be a head coach yet, but, man, did he handle himself really well. The Chicago media is quite a pressure cooker. So he went from being the passing game coordinator to then they fire the OC. So now he's suddenly the offensive coordinator with everything on his plate for that. Then a couple of weeks later, he takes over as interim head coach. And, there's a lot of newness that Thomas Brown had to take on. And he really seemed prepared for the moment. And it was a locker room that was already divided and a team where things had been lost. But I was thoroughly impressed with Thomas Brown. So my hope for him is that this next season he gets an opportunity to be the full-time offensive coordinator, because I was really impressed with how the Bears' offense became a lot more efficient, as he was calling it, versus Shane Waldron. And so he's a guy that I think just, as a developmental head coaching prospect, I'd say look out for Thomas Brown in the years to come.
Always a pleasure. Anthony Herron has been our guest from the Big Ten Network, and it's always great. I appreciate you jumping on with us as often as you do, and look forward to chatting again.
Big diggity. My pleasure, my friend. Happy New Year to you and all the listeners.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thanks. Anthony Herron. All right, we'll grab a break. We will come back, final segment of this hour, and more coming up right after this from Bob Hours, right here on the Thom Abraham Show.
You're listening to the Thom Abraham Show with Joe Hunk on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
And I get an order in now, too.
Earn cashback rewards on every eligible gaming transaction. VSiN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval, terms and conditions apply.
NFL Week 15 will start on Thursday night when the San Francisco 49ers take on the LA Rams.
Came in hot, and was it? Usually, he's been on it.
The rest of the season without running back Christian McCaffrey.
Chicken lips platter.
Won 6 of the last 8, got healthy, and now it's 7-6. One game back to Seattle for the division lead. San Francisco has dropped 3 of 4. The 49ers are a 3-point home favorite, -105 against the spread. The Rams getting the 3 points, -115. On the money line, Los Angeles is at +130. San Francisco -150, with the over/under sitting at 49.5. For VSiN.com, I'm Tony Desiri. 97.
Hey, we're not having that echo right now, Herron.
Mike Rowe here with a quick question. Is your concrete sinking? Whether it's your driveways, uneven surfaces are not just ugly, they're dangerous. That's where AFS comes in, a groundworks company. They use state-of-the-art concrete lifting solutions to prevent tripping hazards, and they're the best at what they do. Schedule your free inspection at afsrepair.com/row. And while you're there, check out my latest dirty job. It's a good one.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
You don't have to go somewhere else, just so you can go somewhere new. Plan your next vacation with Huntsville International Airport and Breeze Airways. Enjoy friendly, convenient, non-stop travel to some of the most exciting destinations in the U.S., including the home of 12 world-famous theme parks, Orlando, Florida. With flights starting as low as just $49, Breeze has got you covered with easy, breezy, non-stop flights to Orlando. Make all their dreams come true. Book non-stop to Orlando now at flybreeze.com.
1 in 3 adults in America have pre-diabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Here's 10 almost for diabetes type 2.
All right, our number one is in the hopper. We went long there with Anthony Herron, but he's just that good. When we return, Kennington, Lloyd Smith of the Athletic is in. Look at his take on where we're at right now with the Final Four in place, plus Ryan Grubb. When is he going to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama? And then I promise we'll get the phone lines open after that, and we'll get your calls in as well. It's all coming up. Hour number 2, Thom Abraham Show, live on location at Baumhauer's. Back in a moment.
Mike Rowe here with a quick question. Is your concrete sinking? Whether it's your driveway, sidewalk, or patio, those uneven surfaces are not just ugly, they're dangerous. That's where AFS comes in, a groundworks company. They use state-of-the-art concrete lifting solutions to prevent tripping hazards, and they're the best at what they do. Schedule your free inspection at afsrepair.com/row. And while you're there, check out my latest dirty job. It's a good one.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
At Mr. Sparky, we're America's on-time electrician. Flickering lights and hot switches can be annoying, but they can also signal a major problem, or worse, an electrical emergency. So play it safe and leave it to the experts at Mr. Sparky. Trust our team of professional, clean, and friendly electricians. We'll get it done right and get it done safely.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Independently owned and operated, licensed in the respective state or county.
Mark and Henry McDaniel, attorneys at law, are proud alumni of Madison Academy. And Madison Academy is proud of them. They have served our community through their practice, through volunteerism and service on national, state, and local boards. They explain the complexity of critical court rulings on local media. Their successful practice has been built on integrity. Both are veterans of MA Athletics and proud sponsors of Mustang football. McDaniel and McDaniel, attorneys at law. No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal service performed by the lawyer.
Tom Luganville here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Under CBC breaking news, the Titans have fired GM Rand Carthon. His 2-year tenure included a 9-25 overall record, and the team moving up 9 spots to draft quarterback Will Levis in the second.
So Brinker's going to run the draft.
He does have the top overall pick in April's draft. Bears still waiting for a response.
This was definitely a power strike.
Their request to speak with Coach Mike McCarthy about their head coaching vacancy. His contract expires tomorrow. Dallas holds exclusive negotiating rights through January 14. McCarthy becomes a coaching free agent after that. On Sunday, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones praised McCarthy but was non-committal regarding his future. Chargers today plan to sign running back Ezekiel Elliott to the practice squad, giving them depth at the position. Gus Edwards has missed the last 2 games with an injury. Cowboys granted Elliott's release request last week to give him a chance to sign with a playoff contender.
WCZN, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
The company is Eagle Masonry and Insulation, but did you know they're also Eagle Landscaping and Dirt
Jared,
Work? Eagle can take care of all your landscaping needs, including irrigation, sod work, and planting, both plants and trees. On the dirt work side, Eagle
This
can
was definitely a power
plants,
stroke.
haul dirt in or out, and even do erosion control. Philip Love and his team can do it all for you. The website is the same, insulateeagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
Normally,
They're not
when
going to
you
hire
call
a
a roofing
GM.
company, all
He's
you
going to be
hear
a
is
guy.
you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Since 1965, the folks at Fleming have been focused on what you need, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement, commercial or residential. And when it comes to storm damage, you want Fleming on your side. They know all the ins and outs of insurance claims and will guide you through the entire process. Log on FlemingHSV.com and book your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Sports Talk, 24/7, 365. Your full-time sports station.
You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
Is 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Doesn't anyone do any work around this joint anymore?
You need to be more like a dog.
Like what you guys are doing. You've got your fingertip on the pulse of your listeners. Guys know what they're talking about.
Be a dog.
God bless the show. You are the Messiah.
We need more dogs.
This is the best show on radio.
The big dog, Thom Abraham, is here with you.
I see you, dog.
So settle in and get your bark on.
That's my dog.
Now live, here he is, the big dog, Thom Abraham.
How you doing? 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 How you doing?
Look, I don't speak Spanish.
I don't know how to say this, so I'm going to choose my words very carefully. I think you're a psycho.
Do you know who I am?
I mean, that guy sounds like El McPherson farting into Miles Davis' trumpet.
I guess I'm on here. Am I on? Can somebody respond? Get off my
I have to drag my Yankee ass out of here.
And welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Thom Abraham Show live at Baumhauer's is where we are at. You ought to be here as well as your big game headquarters. They've got, let's see, we're seeing a replay of last night's North Dakota State win over Montana State, where they won their 10th championship in the last 14 years in FCS. We also have a little bit of Notre Dame, Indiana going on a TV. We have got the Pat McAfee show going on. We got some tennis, I think, going on. We got all kinds of different things going on at the on the 80 TVs that they have here at Baumhauer's. All right, joining us now, a guy that does a tremendous job covering all things Alabama, but he is a guy, as I said, he's also a Georgia grad, and he's also a guy that covered Iowa in the Big Ten, so he's got Big Ten chops as well. He joins us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. It's Kennington, Lloyd Smith of The Athletic. Kenny, welcome back. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. We just had Anthony Herron on of the Big Ten Network. I'm trying to get his thoughts on, this whole thing. Is it too simple to just say this is because of NIL? I mean, we look at Bryce Underwood making the decision to go to Michigan over LSU, and it was a money decision. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I remember when Colin Cowherd was saying that Big Ten was dead forever because all the speed and talent is in the South, and one kid from the South wants to go play up there in the snowbank. That was about 5 years ago, before NIL. Is this all about money, or is this a cyclical thing, or do you think it's a blip on the radar that the Big Ten is potentially on the verge of having an all Big Ten national championship this year?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more than a blip. I think you could actually venture to call it a trend. I think outside of just NIL and the transfer portal, I think the coaching in the Big Ten has taken a step forward. You have Ryan Day, Sherrod Moore has come in and had some big wins. James Franklin, Kirk Cignetti, Jonathan Smith coming over to Michigan State. He's trying to build over there. Obviously, you have Kirk Ferentz, Brent Bielema, what he's done at Illinois. So I think the coaching in the Big Ten, as well as the transfer portal and NIL, are contributing this. Dan Lanning, throw him in there as well. Oregon for the Big Ten. Sometimes I forget that. But, I would say that's also something that's underrated that is getting probably talked about enough.
Yeah. Not that the coaches suck in the SEC, though. I mean, they've still got, a pretty solid roster of coaches there. But you're right. I mean, things will definitely have to change a little bit going forward. We'll see how that happens. But speaking of coaching, last I saw, Ryan Grubb is still on the street. I know that you got to make room for him. I don't care who you blow out. I mean, they got to get Ryan Grubb to Tuscaloosa, and they got to make him somehow this time stay there in Tuscaloosa. What's going on? What can you tell us there about Ryan Grubb?
Yeah, I mean, we're basically kind of on standby right now. Like you said, Kevin DeBoer's already reshifted his staff once already. Colin Hisler is out. He's moving Chuck Morrell up. Kane Womack's kind of shifted his role as well. So they're still at 10 full-time assistants as a part of that. Something is going to have to give, whether that's Nick Sheridan moving into a different role. I think if you're looking at the staff, maybe the most likely would be Brian Ellis, the tight ends coach. Maybe he moves into a different role, maybe a senior analyst / quarterback coach type of role, something like that to make room for Ryan Grubb. But something's going to have to give. So I think we're in a bit of a holding pattern right now. Ryan Grubb, in my mind, I would think would probably try to see what other options are out there. I mean, it wasn't perfect in Seattle, but Geno Smith had a career year. Jackson Smith and Jigba did well as well. So he did some good things on offense. Maybe he'll get another NFL job before the Alabama thing comes up. But wouldn't be surprised to see a reunion, but at this point we're kind of in a holding pattern.
I didn't watch the Seahawks really close. They won 10 games. It's 10-win teams, especially now with the 7 playoff teams in each conference generally make the playoffs. This is a rarity that they a 10-win team not making the playoffs. I thought they did. Geno Smith, like you said, had a great year. I'm trying to figure out how did Ryan Grubb get himself one and done, in Seattle. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't quite know either. From what I gather on Twitter, and I'm not a Seahawks enthusiast or whatever, but people say that he had beef with DK Metcalf. So maybe that's something that's a part of the star offensive player didn't want him in the building anymore. Maybe that has something to do with it. You're right. I don't know what the situation was with that, but it's going to be somebody else's game, and there's a lot of people in Tuscaloosa and other parts of the South that are hoping that it's Alabama's game.
Yeah, you would think, and and you hope that it isn't a scenario where that's the fallback. If he doesn't get another job in the NFL, there's going to be 7 or 8 new staffs in the NFL, and because you would think that job is attractive enough. The money is certainly there for it. You would think that the job is attractive enough, to go to Alabama and be the offensive coordinator. We remind people that Nick Saban wanted Ryan Grubb to be his offensive coordinator. So this isn't something where he's just a kill and a war guy.
Yeah, and that's also the thing about it that maybe Alabama thinks to take this with a little bit more caution. He's already left Alabama at the altar twice already. I mean, Nick Saban tried to hire him. He decided to stay at Washington. He comes with Kalen DeBoer to Alabama. He's in front of the boosters at that meeting, and I believe it was February, January. He's like, I'm Ryan Grubb, I'm the offensive coordinator. Then he leaves again. So, to your point, it's not just enough to get him here. Can you keep him here? And is there going to be something that could push Alabama over the finish line this third time, considering the last 2 times seemed like pretty good situations under Nick Saban in one, which is a career launch pad, following, one of the veterans, Kalen DeBoer, continuing with the title of Washington and Alabama. Those were 2 pretty good situations. So maybe what happened this year is going to put it into perspective to push Alabama over the line. But don't be surprised if it doesn't happen, because this has already happened twice now.
Are people making too much of the fact that, we talked about the Big Ten and some of the NIL money and so on that's up there in these schools that have massive boosters? And I guess it's pretty well known that, Alabama is a passionate fan base, but there isn't that guy, there isn't that Phil Knight, or isn't that guy like they got at Texas, or the guy that they got up at Michigan or at Ohio State, where they've got a few of them, where you don't have that hammer that is going to be able to provide a ton of money. As this thing develops going forward, and how teams are able to, colleges are able to pay players and so on, is it a given that Alabama's now always going to be behind because they don't have that kind of a guy, or will you be able to live off of the the income that a program makes? Because certainly they're one of the most lucrative programs in all of college football.
Right. Well, the thing about it, it's kind of multi-pronged. So to answer your question, the first question, what's happening now with these mega boosters, I think it's even going to become more impactful into the future when you think about the revenue sharing model. Because the way I understand this, and I was talking to Greg Byrne about this, is when you have the rev sharing up to $20 million, but then anything outside of that in terms of collectives is like the icing on the cake. So you'll see some collectives go away, but some collectives are going to be used as that additional financial arc to push some deals over the top. So, maybe Alabama exists only to service for an edge rusher and a quarterback of these premier players, or a premier basketball player, but it's going to be that added money on top of what the school is going to give under their guidelines. So when you have the outside forces that have pushed the Bryce Underwood deal over the line, for example, that's going to be a huge advantage to what these schools are doing. So if we're talking about from that angle, yes, Alabama is going to be behind financially. They're not going to be the richest school. What they can do to make up for that, and it all ties into the play on the field, is they have to win games. They have to keep sending guys to the league. That's what, in essence, the Saban discount was. That's why Alabama was still able to recruit at their level in spite of NILs, because Nick Saban had a guarantee in place that if you come to Alabama, you're going to win a championship, you're going to go to the NFL. As long as they continue to do that at some level, they're not going to do it at the Saban level, but as long as they can still be a perennial championship contender in a pro factory, that should be enough to keep Alabama as a top 5 recruiting class team. But the days of them just being number 1 10, 12 years, and that's just not happening anymore. I don't know if it's happening for anybody, but certainly not for Alabama when you think about the financial ramifications.
Well, to that point, I mean, there are teams that in this next recruiting cycle, and this is a time where, recruiting obviously is very important here between the end of the season and getting into spring ball. But there are teams like Oregon, Texas A&M, Penn State that got, 8 to 10 guys already committed for the next class. Alabama's got 1. Should there be much concern there with the fact that so far for the 2026 cycle, right now the Tide only have 1 guy committed?
Yeah, I don't think there will be a lot of concern just because recruiting is so fickle. So there might be a lot of takes right now in January for these classes, but in the summertime the numbers might look a lot different. I think about Alabama this past cycle. They took a lot of guys regardless. Not a lot of them made it to the signing period in December. So it's fluid. I would say that I would watch for who Alabama is hosting and how many people are getting on campus in the next few months, because this recruiting class, I think, is probably even more impactful than the first one for Kalen DeBoer. How is he able to resonate what Alabama actually put on the field to the next class, and how is he going to be able to sell that, and how is he going to continue to build? Is there going to be another West Coast heavy class? Because this one obviously had to be West Coast because he was out there at Washington, so those relationships carried over. Is it going to be West Coast again? Is it going to be more Southern influence? We talked about how he didn't recruit very well in the state of Alabama. We'll see how he does this time in Alabama and the surrounding areas. So really important class for him. So I think right now what I'm looking for is who is Alabama in the mix for, who they're getting on campus. And then I think in the summertime is really kind of when you can really analyze who's in whose class and who has how many kids and all of that. I think right now it's a little too fluid to say it's a concern.
Yeah, by the way, that one kid is an Alabama kid out of Gaston City. Zion Gibson actually did one of his games against Buckhorn High School, and he's a small guy, 5'11", 177-pounder, but he's very athletic type of kid. So, there is that. But yeah, they're taking their time in terms of getting, guys in the fold for 2026. Not that it means anything anymore, because it seems like guys are on the move so often. Kennington, Lloyd Smith with us here. All right, to the basketball team. Wow. I mean, they just took Oklahoma. That was the number 12 team in the country, allegedly, and they just took them apart. They're in Tuscaloosa to open up league play. Now they're off on the road for the next couple of games, including at South Carolina, and they got a big one on Saturday where they'll play number 10 Texas A&M. But just talk about that effort on Saturday where they just blew out Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I do want to toot my own horn because I did say Oklahoma hasn't been on the road. Don't be surprised.
You did.
It turned into a boat race. And I think what you saw was the difference in a team that has played the hardest non-conference schedule in the country and a team that has played some good teams but not the same level of schedule, and then obviously a team that has not played on the road yet. So it was what it was for Oklahoma. For Alabama, you have to be really impressed with the fact that they put up 100 points and led basically wire to wire and didn't shoot well from three quarters. And I think this is kind of the storyline that is under the storyline of the blowout, is that we have to consider that Alabama might not be a great shooting team this year, which is, pretty jarring compared to the shooting numbers that they've had in years past. But this is not a very good shooting team, not a consistent one. And they can win in different ways, which is nice to see. They can win crashing the offensive glass like they did against Oklahoma. They can win in some cases on defense. They can win with ball movement. Sometimes they can win with three-pointers. They can win with depth, talent. They just have a lot of different ways that they can hurt teams, which is good to see. So really impressive win. Like you said, they're going to go on the road. If they have a good stretch right here, they're going to be right there when everybody else is trying.
Yeah, and if the shooting is not there, then take care of the ball. At least take care of the ball. They do play a little helter-skelter, and that's when it gets sideways for them, when they start turning the ball over too much. You know, you want to make sure, I would think, that you're getting your best looks, and you know, and you're not sloppy with the ball. You have to maintain. You need every possession because you're not a great shooting team.
Right. And, you know, to that point, they did take care of the ball against Oklahoma. So
yeah, they did. Yeah, and then you see what happens.
You like to have games with 9 turnovers every single time out. That's obviously not going to happen in the case of play. But they're going to have to figure out a way to keep the turnovers down. And they can keep rebounding like they are. They're going to be a really tough team. I think that's also the biggest difference. Clifford Murray played pretty incredible against Oklahoma. And the combination of him, Brant Nelson, Jaron Stevenson, Moji Abate, Darian Reed, Ace Sherrill, they have so much depth on the court that they didn't have last year. And it's really helping them rebounding wise. That's another reason why they're able to win without shooting so well.
Yeah. Always a tremendous job. Kennington Lloyd Smith has been our guest. Kenny, I appreciate you so much, and we'll keep the conversation going. This is an exciting basketball team, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. And Kennington brought to us by our friends at Owen Home Appliance Center. You know, it's laundry season over there at Owen Home Appliance Center. And if you're tired of your washing machine just walking out the door on you every time it goes into the spin cycle, or if you got to dry a load 2 or 3 times to get it done, it's time to look at a new washer and dryer from Owen Home Appliance Center. They got all the top brands: Maytag, GE, Whirlpool, Electrolux, and Speed Clean. And they got the 2-in-1 GE profile that washes and dries a load all in one machine. That's pretty incredible as well. Check out their interactive location at Lacey Springs, 8 miles south of the river. It's Owen Home Appliance Center. Quality products, quality prices, quality service right there in the name, Owen Home Appliance Center. All right, now we get to the phone lines. 256-576-4977 will get you in. You talk about anything you want to talk about. We got NFL playoffs coming up. We got college playoffs coming up on Thursday and Friday night. It's going to be a glorious 5-day run of playoff football, both in college and in the NFL. And I'm just going to say this. I mentioned Mike Tomlin earlier. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers have not fired a coach in 55 years. Whatever it is, since 1968, Jim McCarthy won 56 years since the Pittsburgh Steelers have fired a coach. 56 years since they fired a coach. What if the Steelers get worked by Baltimore? It's been since 2016 since they won a playoff game. Could this be the end of Mike Tomlin? Still a pretty young guy. We'll be back. Your phone calls are next, right here on the Thom Abraham Show.
If hunting and outdoor recreation are your passions, it all starts with the right property. That's where I come in. I am Bo Butler with Southland Realty and Auction, a hunting and recreational land specialist and a Jackson County native who sees land through a hunter's eyes. Just as you trust your guide on a big game hunt, you can trust me to find the perfect property for you. Thinking of selling? Let me help you make your land attract buyers. Remember, Bo knows land. Call me at 256-609-0512.
Are you tired of power outages disrupting your life? It's time for a Generac standby generator from Current Electrical. Storms may rage outside, but inside your family's powered up. So why choose Current Electrical for your generator needs? 1, we offer a wide range of models to suit every budgeted energy requirement. 2, our project managers handle every step of the process: power, gas, permitting, and inspections. 3, our certified technicians install your generator with precision, ensuring peace of mind. Don't wait for the next blackout. Call 256-880-1880 or visit us online at jetsuperstore.com.
Orthopedics. You're thinking bones, muscles, and joints, right? Well, what else comes to mind? Maybe your spine, therapy, or an arm cast? What about sports medicine? What do you think about when you hear that? Are you thinking about the largest orthopedic group in the state, caring for the most student athletes in North Alabama? Or about the fact that they are teamed up with the state's largest hospital-based sports medicine program to provide care to more schools in North Alabama than any other group? If you are, you have TOC Sports and Huntsville Hospital Sports Center on the brain. If you're not, you should, because Huntsville Hospital Sports Center and TOC Sports have partnered for more than 2 decades to establish a state-of-the-art team team of certified athletic trainers and orthopedic specialists who successfully continue to meet and exceed the sports medicine needs of schools, athletes, coaches,
I don't even know what that
parents
means.
in our community. Committing to kids, committing to community, committing to care. That's Huntsville Hospital Sports Center and TOC Sports.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing. We have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates. Residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Eagle Masonry and Installation. It's right there in the name. Eagle is your one-stop shop for block, stone, or brickwork, monument signs, and outdoor kitchens and fireplaces. Eagle also offers the finest craftsmanship and insulation, including fiberglass or spray foam insulation, and of course, insulation removal. Philip Love and his team have years of experience bringing the region the best in masonry and insulation services. For more information and a quote, visit insulatewitheagle.com or call 256-755-1556. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
It's time to get your family into boating. The Huntsville Boat Show is back January 16th through the 19th at VBC. Shop, compare, and save thousands on your family's dream boat. Hundreds of new boats to purchase on site. Shop pontoons, wake surf boats, fishing boats, and more. Visit HuntsvilleBoatShow.com.
I'm Al Ruger, and here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. Americans are boating responsibly. They know that on average, 2 people lose their lives and 9 are injured in recreational boating accidents every day. So they're wearing their life jackets, taking safe boating courses, leaving the alcohol on the dock, and of course, always checking the weather. You can learn more at www.uscgboating.org. The U.S. Coast Guard and I remind you, please boat responsibly.
It's time to get your family into boating. The Huntsville Boat Show is back January 16th through the 19th at VBC. Shop, compare, and save thousands on your family's dream boat. Hundreds of new boats to purchase on site. Shop pontoons, wake surf boats, fishing boats, and more. Visit HuntsvilleBoatShow.com.
And welcome back, Thom Abraham Show. Segment of the show is brought to you by the outstanding award-winning service department at Woody Anderson Ford. Not only for routine checkups of your Ford or other brand, but they can take care of bigger problems as well with their expert service technicians who will quickly diagnose it, use state-of-the-art tools to get it resolved. Everything from maintenance checks like belts and hoses and fluids to air conditioner work, brake work, and training work. And of course, the great body shop that they have over there. And the mobile service where they come to you. Woody Anderson Ford. Go to WoodyAndersonFord.com to learn more. All right, we go to the lines. Phone lines are open 256-5764, 97.7. He's a good pig. You know the difference between a pig and a chicken, right? The difference between a pig and a chicken is all you got to do is look at your breakfast, the bacon and eggs you had for breakfast, okay? The chicken was involved in your breakfast. The pig was committed. Holly and the cake. Holly, welcome to the show. How are you?
First of all, number one, if you're actually disenchanted and delusioned that all of a sudden the Big 10/Big 12, whatever you want to call it, is now the dominating team, really, after, 20 years? Remember the great team, Tennessee, started it all off, then 7 SEC teams after that, one when they first did the BCS, and then when they went into the next. Come on. Remember, the NIL is what killed Nick Saban. And because he couldn't go and sack the shelf like he had for 5 years. Oh, but the NFL just took 10 guys. I got another 10 on the shelf.
Well, we remember when Ohio State won the national championship and they beat Alabama in the first 14 playoff, and that was, I think, 2015, right? When that happened, everybody was like, well, this might be the SEC's receding and all of that other kind of stuff. And it was just a blip on the radar. And then the next thing you know, the SEC was winning, 4 of the next 5 national championships. So I'm not ready to kill the SEC yet. I'm not ready to say it's over yet with the SEC. It just might be a blip on the radar. And, oh, by the way, Texas is still an SEC team. So there's Texas.
I hear you. I mean, it's just, let's look at how much gets drafted to the Big Ten. Okay, let's see what happens. But other than that, I don't see, remember the Pac-10 got gutted last season, and they just picked 5 guys.
Yeah.
And they were complete. That was it. That was the whole depletion of the Pac-10 as far as in the pro picks. I mean, come on. Look at when they do the roll call. Hey, I'm Bob Smith.
Right.
Alabama, tackle Alabama. 60-70% of those teams are SEC. Come on.
No, I agree.
All right,
I'm not ready to bury him yet.
And I have a class action suit against KC for laying down against the Broncos there. I'm taking them to court. They didn't play.
Man, did they lay down. Holy mackerels. Yeah. That was bad.
All
right, man.
Now it's hockey until the draft.
Yeah, right. We got a little bit of football left. We got a little football left on the bone before we go there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's it. It's over. No more football.
I hear you.
All right,
go
man. Dolphins.
Appreciate you. So, Joe, what happened, man? Camera went dark. Just went away.
Oh, sup? I'm on the camera right now.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I don't know what happened there. I don't think I'm there right now.
No, you're not.
With you.
No, I pulled an Amy Adams Strunk. You're not there anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what know what happened with that deal, but we get
I'm
that.
not. I have live from Baumhauer's Victory Grill underneath what was your video, and now it's in. And as anybody can see, this is not Baumhauer's behind me right now.
Right. No, I can see you there, and but we'll get that back up in a very short term here.
Yeah, I don't want to be on camera. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this right there. Okay.
Yeah, let me get a quick break in here. When we come back, phone lines remain open, and very interesting article regarding the whole situation with the Tennessee Titans and their general manager. Is there going to be a general manager, or is it just going to be like an assistant general manager? Is he going to be a real guy, or is it just going to be somebody that is working for Chad Brinker? And we'll explain that scenario when we return. It's the Thom Abraham Show. Back with more in a moment.
You're listening to the Thom Abraham Show with Joe Hunk on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. For a limited time, GBank is offering a $250 bonus when you open a GBank Visa signature card. Apply today at vsin.com/GBank.
Thursday, Orange Bowl. Notre Dame a 1.5 favorite over Penn State in the college football playoff semifinal. Friday, Cotton Bowl, AT&T Stadium. Texas a 6-point dog against Ohio State, 53.5 the total. College basketball, the Auburn Tigers are the plus 135 favorite to win the SEC regular season title. The second choice is Tennessee at plus 260. They're 14-0 to start the season. Third choice, the Alabama Crimson Tide at plus 450. For more, go to VSIN.com. Mike Sennett, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Mike Rowe here with a quick question. Is your concrete sinking? Whether it's your driveway, sidewalk, or patio, those uneven surfaces are not just ugly, they're dangerous. That's where AFS comes in, a groundworks company. They use state-of-the-art concrete lifting solutions to prevent tripping hazards, and they're the best at what they do. Schedule your free inspection at afsrepair.com/row. And while you're there, check out my latest dirty job.
It's a good one.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
It's laundry season at Owen Home Appliance Center. Tired of that washer walking out the door and having to dry a load 2 or 3 times? It's time for a new washer and dryer. Pick from brands like Maytag, GE, Whirlpool, Electrolux, and of course, Speed Queen. Try the new 2-in-1 GE Profile that washes and dries a load all in one machine. Visit the interactive location in Lacey Springs where you can try the washers and dryers before you buy them. Owen Home Appliance Center. Quality products, quality pricing, quality service. It's in the name, Owen Home Appliance Center.
Looking for your next adventure to be out of this world but don't have enough money to buy a spaceship and leave orbit? Well, look no further than Divergence VR theme park off of Governor's Drive Southwest in Huntsville, Alabama. Are zombies more your style? How about driving your favorite cars on the world's fastest tracks? Or maybe a gorilla game that has you climbing up tall trees to escape other gorillas? Wait, that's actually a thing? Huh. Would you look at that? For whatever adventure you can dream of, call 256-203-4128 to get your VR adventure started now.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
Gunner's Landing is one of the Tennessee Valley's finest golf experiences. Just 35 minutes from downtown Huntsville, Gunner's Landing's 18-hole championship Jewel is open to the public 7 days a week. Located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, Gunner's Landing offers you a golf experience like no other. With beautiful Lake Gunnersville views throughout the round, Gunner's Landing is golf the way nature intended. Gunner's Landing's club repair shop offers a full range of services, including re-gripping and adjusting the lofts and lies of your clubs, even putters. Since the work is done in-house, your clubs will be returned to you in a timely manner. Unmatched in the North Alabama area, it is Gunner's Landing. Schedule your tee time today at gunnerslanding.com. That's gunnerslanding.com.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Get ready, we're talking about another cold night across North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee. Temperatures are going to have no problems, dropping into the low and mid-20s. Plenty of sunshine on Wednesday afternoon. It's at least going to look nice across the Tennessee Valley, but we're still going to be on the colder end of the spectrum. Temperatures only climbing into the mid and upper 30s. The average high temperature this time of year is right around the lower 50s, 52 or 53 degrees, dropping into the lower 20s as we head into the overnight early Thursday morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Paul Feinbaum. Listen to me coming up today at 2. Now back to the Thom Abraham Show on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
And welcome back to Thom Abraham Show live at Baumhauer's. You want to jump on board, you could. 256-576-4977 will get you into the show. Text window is open as well, 7329-TA-SHOW. That's 732-982-7469. All right, we told you earlier that Rand Carthen got blown out by the Titans. This is the story from Pro Football Talk. My computer doesn't die. I'll get it in here. I think it's fascinating. To be honest with you, it said Chad Brinker arrived in Tennessee 2 years ago as the assistant general manager. Remember, Carthen was the GM 2 years ago, and then Chad Brinker was his assistant GM. Now the general manager will essentially be his assistant. The headline on Tuesday is that the Titans have fired GM Rand Carthen, and there goes my computer. Basically, what it goes on to say is that Chad Brinker is, going to be the guy to oversee all of the football operations, including the draft. But he is hiring a GM. So what is the GM going to do? Is the GM going to be the chief scout? I mean, I think that's all that's left, is that the GM would be the chief scout. He's not really going to be a general manager. Going to be the office manager? Is the GM's going to be the guy that orders the paper clips and the in the printer paper and the ink and the toner and stuff like that, maybe, Joe? Because Chad Brinker's running the show.
What's sad about it is if the person that was going to be answering to him is going to be like the lead scout, I want you to know that was literally what Rand Carthon was doing for the 49ers before he became the general manager. So
well, he was the assistant GM.
Yes.
At the 49ers, and yeah.
But he was over all of the college scouting. Like, majority of that 49ers roster is what it is because of the scouting report that Carthon put together for the team on draft night. Like, that is, and that, again, goes back to why this is so mind-blowing, is that you put somebody in that knows about drafting talent, finding talent, continues to love to watch film so that he knows what he's talking for, thinks differently, looks at things differently than everybody else, and he already has a proven track record of being able to put together a good roster. And the man barely even had 600 days to try to fix what John Robinson had years to screw up, and you blow him out. And so now you just want to bring in an assistant so that he can be a yes man for Brinker.
Well, when you're blowing him out, if you're going to blow him out, usually this is a very unusual situation because generally when you blow the dude out, you blow everybody out, right? I mean,
think?
You know, that you clean house. When they say you're cleaning house, you clean house. Yes, I know there were 9-25 since Carthon has been the coach there. But the GM there. But they fire Mike Vrabel. They hire Brian Callahan. He gets 1 year with Brian Callahan, and they just never get things going. And then Amy Adams Strunk says, "I've loved the time I spent with Rand. He's a talented football mind, a great man, and a friend to everyone along his path." It's impossible to ignore that our football team hasn't improved over the past 2 years. I'm deeply disappointed in our poor win-loss record during the period, of course, but my decision also speaks to my concern about our long-term future should we stay the course. I love this team more than you can imagine. To our fans, we know this level of performance isn't acceptable. We're humbled by your support, and we continue to work towards building the team you expect and deserve. It's just so odd. Like, okay, you love the guy. You talk about what a great, contributor he has been. It's similar to what Robert Kraft was talking about with Gerard Mayo. It's like, oh man, this guy, I wanted the best for him and everything else. Get out of here. I mean, it's you got to give a guy a chance to cook a little bit, don't you?
Well, and again, the problem or the thing is that he was, and you're going into a free agency period coming up, because that's the other part of this. And if somebody's coming in to just help Brinker, if that is what's going to be happening, then that means that Brinker is going to be the one that is going to be controlling the free agency market when that hits before the draft, as well as the draft itself. So if there was a thought about what you were going to do with this first overall pick, it may be gone now. Like it may be hey, we're getting Cam Ward. We want a quarterback because we need a quarterback, and you're not going to change my mind in this decision we're going to make. And so, but the problem is that now you run the risk of wasting money just because you want to get a player in at a position that may not be good for that position, or may not be the one that needs to be there to help that position. Whereas Rand, look, the Titans had the number one amount of cap space going into free agency period last year. They may have spent half their money. They may have. And it was only because they didn't see value in spending the money on players that they didn't want to pay the money for what they were offering. And I feel like that's about to happen.
The article goes on to say, promoted to president of football operations in 2024, Brinker has now been given final authority over football operations as a part of the post-Carthon transition. By the way, if that name Carthon is familiar to old-timers, yes, that's the son of Maurice Carthon, the running back from the Giants back in the day. Also was with the New Jersey Generals. He was the blocking back in front of Herschel Walker in 1984 for the New Jersey Generals. Anyway, the story goes on to say, it is, quote, "It is important to Amy, the owner, to have absolute clarity in the football organization," according to Titans president and CEO Burke Nihel said in an article on the team's website announcing the Carthon firing. Quote, "And so, while the general manager position will have a primary responsibility on all things Chad is describing in terms of the day-to-day overseeing of the roster and the coaching staff, Chad is the leader of the football program So Chad will have the final authority on all football matters, including the roster, close quote. Okay, so we stop right there. So this dude who was the assistant to Rand Carthen, he was the assistant GM, was then elevated to the director of football operations and won a power struggle with his GM.
You know what this is remind me of? If we're thinking of college football, this sounds very much like a Kevin Steele situation at Auburn. He's the defensive.
I'll go old school with you.
Yeah.
This is Philip Fulmer.
Yes.
Taking over for Johnny Majors, back in the day.
Like this is a, hey, I am in with the boosters. If we're talking college football, you know what? I've got a better vision than what he has. I know what I can do. I think that if you let me get a chance to run this, I would be the guy, and whatever you guys are wanting, this is what I would do. And I almost feel like, and again, this is without talking to the people that I know, that I feel like that was kind of what it was, is that Brinker was in Amy Adams Strunk's ear, and she trusted and she was listening to him more than she was listening to Carthon, because Brinker was probably, I say Brinker or somebody, let me just put it that way, was going on an idea of, hey, look, we've only got basically next year, and then we're going to be in this new building, in this new stadium, and we're not going to have a team that fans are going to want to do, and you're going to lose money on season tickets and all this if you don't put a good product on the field. And he's not wanting to do that. He thinks this is a 2 or 3 year plan, and I could do this in a year. And that's what it sounds like.
The story goes on to say, and so the new GM won't be the GM. Instead, Brinker will be the GM with a different title. Quote, Rand was hired into a very different job description than the one that exists today, Nyahel said. Rand was hired for a general manager position that was very specific to the circumstances at the time, and the forecasting was the general manager would be able to partner very closely with the head coach, the existing head coach, and the circumstances exist today. The general manager position is different. And so what Chad, who is leading the search, will be looking for is a very different skill set from a very different job description. I have no idea what he just said.
But
I have no idea what they just said. He's looking for a secretary.
Well, no, and this is what he was talking about when Carthon was brought in. You could bring it up in his press conference, because we made fun of this so many times in Nashville. Is he kept using the word collaboration? Everything is going to be a collaboration. It's going to be a collaboration between the head coach and myself. At the time, it's going to be a collaboration between Vrabel and myself, and Vrabel and myself. And what happened is, and the reason why Vrabel was let go, because Vrabel basically didn't want it to be a collaboration. He wanted it to be a, hey, this is what I want, get it. And Carthon was like, look, man, I'm not agreeing with you on this, because I'm seeing something different. And eventually,
he was the assistant GM, though.
Yeah,
that's what's weird.
Exactly, but
he
now
was the assistant, and then he jumps over the top of the boss.
Yeah, and so what? And so now that what they were saying is that when Carthon came in, all he kept saying is, hey, man, I am here to get you what you need. Anything that the coach is needing as far as putting talent on the field, I am here for that. That's what I want, because that is my job as far as being a scout and being able to find talent and to notice talent and to get them in a position where you can coach them to be. That was what he was brought in for. And it sounds like this guy that they're wanting is to be a, hey, I'm picking the players and you're doing this, or I'm going to listen in some weird way. I don't know. It sounds so weird when they say it the way they're saying.
It's
something's not connecting, and there's a reason it's not connecting.
Well, and here's the next problem, is that they may have an issue with the Rooney Rule here. The story goes on to say it's clear that Carthon held powers that have been handed directly to Brinker without a search. So they just basically gave Brinker, for the most part, the GM job. Florio says, we asked the league whether this complies with the Rooney Rule. We also asked whether Brinker's 2024 promotion to the position of president of football operations represented the culmination of a Rooney Rule compliant search. So who's the next GM in Tennessee? One name to watch, we're told, is Packers VP of Player Personnel John Eric Sullivan. Brinker and Sullivan worked together for 13 years in Green Bay. Look, why would anybody want to go to that organization? Who wants to go work for her? I mean, it's so dysfunctional right now. Yes, you're going to have a new stadium. There are a lot of questions. Why would you want to go there? I think that this is going to make it very difficult for them to get a quality person. They're going to get somebody that's itching to move up because there's only so many of those jobs in the NFL. But I don't know why you'd want to go there. I really don't. I don't. All right, we'll grab a break. We'll come back, and you want to jump on board, you can jump on board. They got something going on tonight on ESPN Apparently we're searching for programming now. But this is kind of fascinating, this TGL thing, the Golf League, which was started by Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. Apparently Tiger Woods can't walk anymore, you know what I mean? And he had one of them golf simulators in his basement at his house, and he decided that, hey, why don't we make an actual golf simulator that's a stadium, and it will be like a league, and we'll have teams, and we'll play in the golf simulator. The only thing is, it's like, this is kind of cool because it's like 18 degrees out and snowing and everything else. The thing is in Florida. It's in Palm Beach, Florida. If you're going to build an indoor stadium golf simulator thing and have a league like this, why wouldn't this be up north someplace where it's cold? This thing is in Florida where you could go outside and play golf. Anyway, we'll come back with more after this. We are at Baumhauer's, back with the Thom Abraham Show next.
You're listening to the Thom Abraham Show with Joe Hunk on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Not looking or feeling your best? No energy for the things you like to do? Ready to look and feel younger? Make your appointment at Advanced Life Clinic, one of the region's foremost destinations for patients interested in looking and feeling their best. Specializing in advanced laser treatments and weight loss, male and female rejuvenation to offset the effects of aging, and more. See how Advanced Life Clinic can help you enjoy your life again. Call 256-882-6555 or log on advancedlifeclinic.com.
What does it mean to be a part of the Southeastern Conference? That you paint your body, your car, and your dog your school colors? Maybe. But it means more than that. It means your alumni network includes the state, the country, and beyond. It means your school ring doubles as your resume. And yeah, you better believe it means more titles, like doctor, CEO, and your honor. Because this is the SEC. And here, it just means more. What does it mean to be part of the Southeastern Conference? That yours is the only conference with its own chant? Well, yes, but it means more than that. It means a study abroad program that might include reforestation in a mangrove swamp in Australia. It means finding your calling, your future spouse, your startup's co-founders, and of course, grilling tongs that play your fight song. This is the SEC, and here, it just means more.
1 in 3 adults in America have pre-diabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Years 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mom my. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
This will turn journalism on its ear.
Watch our stream on WZZN TV on Twitch and YouTube.
But you are the greatest hero in American history.
We are 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Yeah, welcome back. Thom Abraham Show. This segment of the show is brought to you by the Orthopedic Center. If you have orthopedic problems and are considering professional care, TOC is the only logical choice. Whether you had a work-related injury or got sideline playing a sport you love, you need the best care, the best physicians, the best facility to get you back in the game. I think you're going to agree that the Orthopedic Center is right for you. Stay in the game with TOC. All right, final segment. Phone lines are open, 256-5764-97.7 will get you into the show. NBC, Joe, reported a viewership average of 28.5 million for the Sunday night football game between the Vikings and the Lions. It was a blowout, right? I mean, it ultimately ends up being a blowout. It was the Jahmyr Gibbs show with his 4 touchdowns. It was the best season ender for the NFL Sunday night broadcast slot since 2012. It was the 3rd most watched game in the network's 18-year history with Sunday Night Football. The only games that were higher were this season's season opener between the Chiefs and the Ravens, which could be a preview of the AFC title game. And it was the most watched finale since the Commanders, and it says the Commanders and the Cowboys in 2012. That was the Redskins and the Cowboys. All right? Can we just not have revisionist history? All right? Dale Earnhardt did not win any, Nextel Cup titles. He won Winston Cup titles. All right? He didn't win Sprint Cup title. He won Winston Cup titles. And in 2012, that was a Redskin Cowboy game. Just because they're Commanders now doesn't mean they weren't the Redskins then. All right? Let's just be there. Anyway, this is just an absolute massive number. 28.5 million. By the way, over 16 million watched on average the quarterfinal round of the college football playoffs. These numbers way dwarf anything else in all of sports. This is way more than watches an NBA final, way more than watches the World Series, way more than watches an NHL game, anything. It's the NFL, and then it's college football. That's it in this country. All right, in this country. Yeah, I get it in Europe. You get more people watching a soccer game and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But these numbers here dwarf anything else. 75 of the top 100 most watched TV shows in 2024 were NFL games. Just think about that. I didn't say 75 of the 100 most watched sporting events. 75 of the 100 most watched television shows, any kind of TV, was an NFL football game. And that was actually down from last year. That was down a little bit from last year. It's absolutely crazy. One of the numbers that I'm going to be most interested in is 2 things. One, how many people are going to watch the women's national championship game this year? Because remember last year they had that 14 million. They actually had more people watch the women's natty than watch the men's game. And so that was just bizarre. So much so that I thought there was a glitch in the system. It's like, did that really happen? I mean, it really had 14 million people watching the chicks basketball game. Then everybody said, well, look, what's going to happen in the WNBA? Well, the WNBA still had, look, if it wasn't a Caitlin Clark game, they had 400,000 people watching it. If it was a Caitlin Clark game, they had 1 million. But they had 14 million watch the college national championship game between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. That's who played. I don't care who the teams were. It was Angel Reese against Caitlin Clark. That was it. So it would be interesting to see if that number holds up at all. But the taste for football in this country, just absolutely amazing. The other number that I'm very interested in is exactly how much snow we're going to get this weekend. Joe, are you seeing these reports? I'm seeing these reports that saying we're going to get anywhere from 7 to 10 inches of snow.
I'm just wondering why you didn't see this report an hour and a half or 2 hours ago when we asked you about it in the meeting, and you're like,
Well, I'm not. You don't stop. It's not kind of snow that's going to stop anybody from getting to the radio station. I mean, we're radio people. I mean, we up north when we'd have a big storm. That was when radio. That was when it was the most important. We'd have an ice storm and trees would be falling on power lines and everything else, and it was all hands on deck. We literally had cots at the radio station and stayed at. In fact, I can tell you this, Joe, back at our old employer, your original employer, where you first started your radio career, you remember that back in the Marty days, we had cots there out in Athens in the basement because when tornadoes came through, we'd have people would stay overnight at the radio station to continue to update people on what was going out there. So we're warriors. You know, me, I'm going to come out of my house during that snowstorm, and I'm going to take the 10 steps that it takes me to get across the carport
be careful.
and into my studio.
Calm down now. Calm down. Like, hey, look, I apologize. I should have thought of how you're going to address this.
I'm going to put my snowshoes on, Joe. I'm going to put my snowshoes. I'm going to slog all the way through the carport.
I mean, we have nothing to complain about now. I mean, I have a car that's barely even running right now, and I'm going to be driving from Hazel Green here, which again, compared to what I used to drive, no big deal. But I also used to drive in a state that knew what it was like to treat the roadways, and I understand that. Look, I apologize. I forgot about the 13 feet that you're going to have to walk at some point in time to get to yours.
It's closer to 20 feet, my friend. I want to tell you right now, it's about 20 feet.
My bad.
To that building.
I mean,
right?
and I mean, you know, let's
all
not
the way
also
through the carport. I mean, all the way through, and there's a little gap of about a foot between the end of the carport and the beginning of the studio building.
Thank God that you
foot,
just.
Who knows how much snow's liable to be?
Thank God you just got a brand new sofa in there that you're going to be able to sleep on day and night, so that we can make sure that you can make sure you're on the air. I mean,
I'll be there.
Yes,
I'll be there for the peeps.
Okay,
I'll be there for the peeps.
Okay,
and all I got to do is get one of all y'all, and look, my son, Mini Abe there, whatever you call him there, Baby Abe. He bought the Expedition, the 4-wheel drive Expedition from Woody Anderson Ford 4-wheel drive Expedition from me. So he's got 4-wheel drive. So if none of all you can get in, he can get in and be my producer. He can produce everybody for the whole day if that's what it takes. But it looks like the storm's coming in. It's saying 7 to 10 inches. It looks like it's coming in over the weekend more. I think it's going to be more Saturday when it's going to happen.
Yeah, so, I mean, look.
Drew needs to start his car now for Friday.
Absolutely.
He's got to just leave his car. Drew needs to leave his car running between now and Friday. Drew, do not turn off your car at all. Just leave it running the whole time.
Yes, that's it. Because again, let's think about it. I mean, Drew has nothing on Thom though. No. I mean, Drew, whatever he's got to do to get in for Talking Ball on Friday morning, it is nothing compared to the trek that Thom makes. Thom, it's almost like day after tomorrow stuff that Thom is going to have to deal with just to get to his studio. I deeply apologize. We should have thought of you first.
Yeah, but I'll make it. I mean, you just say a prayer for me. But I will make it. I will make it all the way through the. I got to go right through the carport. I will make it. I will get in. Just for you guys, because I'm here for you. I just want you to know that I'm here for you.
We're glad.
Although it gets kind of cold in there, you know what I mean? I mean the heat.
Dang it! It was 158 when you mentioned this. We made a joke on the air that you were going to talk about how cold it was in your studio, but you're also not in it today.
No, I'm not in it today. I'm at Baumhauer's. I want to thank everybody at Baumhauer's who did a tremendous job. Until tomorrow, have a great day, everybody.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Breaking news, the Titans have fired GM Rand Carthon. His 2-year tenure included